Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the SEC Morning Report. I am Blayne Gilmer. It is a What If Wednesday here on the SEC Morning Report on Southeastern 14, your home for daily SEC coverage. That's football, basketball, baseball, all of the SEC action you could want. It's right here. So like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Have a lot of exciting things going on, guys. We've partnered with the Believe Network, and you need to make sure you're not only following us here and liking and subscribing here, but also if you like the podcast version of things, you can get podcasts everywhere that there is Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that kind of good stuff over there to get the audio version of stuff. And guys, make sure you hit up caroline.smith at Southeastern 14 if you want to partner with the Southeastern 14 channel here and do some advertising. Speaking of advertising, guys, we are presented by Bet Online, the major pro sports league. The last one has kicked off. The NBA season is going. So all the major sports leagues kind of going on at the same time. The MLB is finishing up. Of course, the NBA has started. The NFL and college football are both in full swing. NHL, who knows when NHL starts or begins, but you can bet on it with Bet Online. Guys, Bet Online is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. Get everything NBA and all major sports at your fingertips with a desktop and mobile app. Access any sport, anytime. Head over to Bet Online today and get in on the action. Don't forget that you use the promo code BELIEVE, our new partner network they were partnering with, BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And we're going to start with the game that everybody wants to hear about this week. There's actually two of them, but I'll start in chronological order of those. So we'll talk about Missouri and Georgia. Georgia, of course, depending on where you look at this one, anywhere from a 15.5 to a 16.5 point favorite, still in Vegas's eyes, even as we move throughout the week here. So by Vegas's definition, a Missouri win would be quite the upset. So today on a What If Wednesday, we're going to look at how would that happen. Okay. I think when you're talking about going on the road to Athens, there's some key things that would have to happen to end Georgia's 25-game win streak. Okay. The last time Georgia lost a home game like that, and the way that the fashion that it would have to go down, a Will Muschamp team back in 2018 comes to mind from South Carolina. Will Muschamp now on Georgia's staff as a defensive coordinator, him and Glenn Schumann co-defensive coordinator. So the thing is, what happened in that game was, hey, you had Georgia losing because they turned the ball over, not only turned the ball over, but the team scored on those turnovers, pick sixes, had some special team miscues. So I think if you're Missouri, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take those two corners that are very, very good, Enos Rakestraw, Chris Abrams-Drain. They're extremely good corners. I remember Georgia recruited Enos Rakestraw quite hard, wanted to get him in their program. And they're going to have to be a little bit ultra aggressive. Sometimes I think it's going to have to be, okay, they're going to have to try to jump a route here and there and see if they can come up with a pick six or with a big momentum turnover. They're going to have to create a couple turnovers in this game if they are going to win the football game, in my opinion. So I think Missouri needs to be +2 probably in the turnover battle. And then when they get down into Georgia's red zone opportunity on offense, I think it's pretty much 4-down territory every time. Like, put the pressure on Georgia to actually make a stop. If it's 3rd and 3, and I'm Eli Drinkwitz, I'm saying, okay, I got 2 downs here to make 3 yards, and put the onus on Georgia to stop you, because field goals are not going to win you the game in Athens. Okay. This Georgia offense is different. Missouri's best side of the ball is their offense. I don't think the defense has played up to the standard that most Missouri fans would like this year. There's been too many ups and downs when you came into the year thinking that the defense was going to be the kind of the standard and maybe one of the better ones in the entire league. I think there's been some lapses at times this year defensively. They've got so many seniors, so many guys that are returning starters over there. It has been a little bit of a shock to see them struggle in certain ways. I believe they're ninth in the conference in pass defense. They are fifth in rush defense. So it'll be interesting to see if Georgia will be able to run the football consistently on Missouri. That's another way to create an upset if you're Missouri. Be able to stop the run. But the problem is Georgia has so many weapons, including the weapon that was the leading receiver for Missouri last year, Dominic Lovett, who started to emerge, Ladd McConkey, what he's done. So if you're Missouri, you have to, I think, be aggressive when anytime you're inside of Georgia's territory, particularly in the plus 30, definitely in the red zone. I think it's 4-down territory. You go down for it every time. I don't think you have to take field goals. You're trying to make them stop you, especially with Georgia when they have allowed people in the red zone. They've had issues preventing touchdowns. So I think you got to be aggressive there. I think you got to play real tight, aggressive coverage with Enos Rakestraw and Chris Abrams-Drain. Like I said, create some turnovers that way. Find a way to get pressure on Georgia. Can you rattle Carson Beck? Because Georgia has only given up 6 sacks on the year. But those are 3 keys that I would say you have to do if you're Missouri to be able to create an upset, create an environment where an upset could possibly happen in this matchup. I also think they're going to need a great game out of Cody Schrader. I think that running game, sometimes Georgia with gap responsibilities loses contain on the edge, and if they can get some of the perimeter run going, or maybe even extension run game, whether it's Luther Burden on screens or things like that, out wide and make Georgia miss a tackle in space. It happened early in the South Carolina game where they missed one on Juice Wells and he took it for a touchdown. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens there with Missouri. But make no mistake about it, Missouri's a team that's capable of doing these things. They haven't done some of these things consistently. Okay, that's why no team is perfect, right? There's things Georgia hasn't done consistently either. But we all know that when you're going on the road to Athens, it is a tough environment to be able to walk into and win, especially with what Georgia has been doing here recently, the confidence they've gained, things like that. So I don't think Missouri has to do anything abnormal, anything they're incapable of. I just think they've got to do some things that maybe they haven't done more consistently. Okay, I think they need to be able to go down and convert on third downs at a little bit higher rate. I think they need to, if they don't convert, they need to be more aggressive, like I said, in the red zone, because Georgia's red zone woes, and they're going to have to be pretty aggressive defensively. A lot of times they'll sit there in that even front on defense, and they don't have to blitz a lot. They just play solid, but I think they're going to have to mix things up a little bit and give Carson Beck some different looks in this game to slow down Georgia's offense. And then I think Missouri's offense is really their best weapon in this game, being able to try to methodically go down the field and then see if they can hit some explosives with Luther Burden from time to time in this game, and hope that they'll be able to run the football. My gut feeling is that they won't be able to run the football, and Brady Cook's going to be dropping back and slinging it a good bit. Now, I do think that you're going to see quick throws here in this game from Brady Cook and Carson Beck. I don't think either one is going to be holding on to it tremendously long. Both of them under 2.5 seconds when it comes to their average time of release. So these are guys who they know where they're going with the football, and they tend to be able to get it out of there. Now, small little what if on Georgia's side. What if Georgia is now deeper than they've been this entire year, because they've had to play with injuries at offensive tackle, at offensive guard, and now they're starting to get some of those bodies back. Whether Amarius Mims could play this week or not, Xavier Truss is there. Xavier Truss can also go back to guard. Dylan Fairchild has gotten time at guard. Micah Morris has been able to play some this year. So Georgia, where they started out maybe, really and truthfully only wanting to play about 6, maybe 7 guys, have 8 or 9 now available at offensive line that have experience and have played. So what if they're more prepared for moments like this and they're more prepared for a stretch run? What if guys like Dominic Lovett, Ladd McConkey, Rob Thomas now are getting a little boost of confidence, getting that ball coming their way a little bit more, even with Brock Bowers out. Eventually, Brock Bowers is coming back. He's not going to sit out the rest of the year. So if Georgia can navigate these next couple of games without him, what if that means that Georgia now has confident guys to go around Brock Bowers, and they know, okay, this is what we were able to do without 19. Now here's what happens. Here's what happened with him. You got Oscar Depp and Lawson Lucky who are filling those shoes. And also, what if Carson Beck just is really as good as he's shown us that he has been this year? As he's 100-yard pace off the pace of what Caleb Williams put up last year in his Heisman Trophy run. He's on pace to finish the regular season with just under 3,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Williams last year had just under 3,800 yards, 34 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So he's not throwing as many touchdowns. Georgia does running quite a few of those in. But as far as yardage, Georgia is explosive. They're putting up a lot. And also that's without Carson Beck having played a lot of fourth quarters in games as well. So I think Carson Beck has proven that he can play. I think it's going to be a struggle for the Missouri defense to prevent explosive plays down the field, because I'm excited about this matchup between these two teams. So that's kind of the what ifs of Georgia base and Missouri. The other what if is, what if Georgia's run game is just really getting going? That's going to be a big problem for Missouri as well. Now, the what ifs in LSU and Alabama. What if LSU jumps out early and Alabama has those spells where they go 3 and out and they're unable to convert, and they have some offensive frustration as they've had in spurts during games, whether it's the first half of the Tennessee game or, whether it's the second half of the Arkansas game. If Alabama goes on a spurt like that, they could find themselves quickly down 14, 17, 21 points to LSU, because LSU can score that quickly. This is going to have to be a game where Alabama matches what LSU can do offensively. Now, I will say this. LSU has given up some sacks this year. Okay, some of that's been because Jaden Daniels has held the football. Some of those were early, but they have given up some sacks this year, and that's going to be something that you have to look at. Alabama is going to be able to get after the passer. Now, we know that LSU has been able to get after the passer in years past. However, this year they are nowhere near what they need to be in terms of creating havoc or getting after the passer, making people uncomfortable. They are 13th in the SEC with only 14 sacks. Guys, Alabama, of course, has given up 35. What if Alabama figures it out pass protection wise? And what if LSU can't get pressure on them? I don't necessarily see that happening, but if they do find some way to use a running back, use a tight end, prevent Harold Perkins from getting back there to Jalen Milroe often, and he's able to have time to develop, to let Burton, to let Bond find their way down the field. LSU has a ton of secondary guys out for this game. It's just kind of a walking wounded over there on their defense a little bit, and that's a tough deal when you have an LSU team that has struggled to defend anyways when it comes to the pass defense, also in the running game at times. Alabama's going to want to stop the run. So my question is, what if Alabama is able to pass protect better than they have all year? Then you can have LSU being in trouble. But also, what if LSU is able just to get a couple of stops in a row? What if they're able to prevent Alabama from, taking any time off the clock with that run game? They stop them on early downs and then rally to the ball and keep them just short on some key downs and force them to punt the football, because Saban's not going to, he's not a big metrics guy. He's not going to go for it every time. If they can do that early, it's going to be an opportunity, I think, for LSU to race ahead a little bit in this ball game. And then, is Alabama built to come from behind against this type of team? I know against Tennessee, they were able to force enough stops, but against this type of team, can you afford to get down 14, 17 points? Again, that's tough to imagine it being in Tuscaloosa, but this is a what if Wednesday, and we're talking about, hey, what could happen between these two teams that would produce an outcome that most of us don't believe is going to happen. I believe Alabama should win the football game, but we're looking at the other side of the coin here. What could happen? Now, in order for that to happen, you've got Zaire Alexander, who's out. You've got Deuce Chestnut, of course, who's out. You got Denver Harris, who's going to be out. Goodness gracious, they've got a lot of people out. Johnson is out at cornerback. They've got so many guys out in that secondary that what if Alabama is able to reverse the script on LSU? Okay, what if they're able to have the more explosive offense early? What if they're able to keep the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands? Can LSU make the necessary adjustments? We'll see. We'll see right there. But it certainly looks like an elite offense versus a very, very good borderline elite defense in this game. But when it comes down to it, guys, you have to look at, all right, it's not about, you're not playing other teams. You're not playing a stat sheet, okay, that have happened all throughout the year. It's in that 60 minutes. What adjustments are going to be made? How are you going to respond? I think what LSU has to be able to do is I wouldn't even be shocked if, you take the ball first in this game and try to say, okay, our offense is the best thing about our team. We're going to try to go out, set the tempo early, see if we can take an early lead, take the Alabama crowd out of it a little bit, and then try to get a stop. And if they're able to do that, and then they go up by double digits with maybe a field goal or go up a 2 touchdowns on the second drive, I think that's your recipe for success and your recipe for, okay, this is how we try to go into Tuscaloosa and take care of business. But the problem for LSU is getting those stops, and we'll see if they're able to do that. Alabama does help you, like I said, at different times with that poor pass protection. Can LSU reverse trends? Those are the two big things. Can they reverse the trend of not getting sacks this year? Can they kind of unleash Harold Perkins, not worry about him being a quote-unquote elite linebacker, complete linebacker, and just put him over top of Caden Proctor and say, I'm gonna go to work, and you're not going to stop me from getting to Jalen Milroe? That would be one thing I would like to see LSU try to do. Just try to take advantage of a mismatch, guys. That's a big deal. So what if LSU finds their pass rush? What if they're able to just slow Alabama's offense down often enough where their offense can in turn go and produce things? Because one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to put all the pressure on your offense to say, hey, okay, we're not going to be able to stop them a lick. You've got to go out there and score every single time. I don't care how good your offense is. You can't do it that way. You've got to be able to play some complimentary football on the road. You got to give them credit at different times this year. LSU, even though their numbers are bad, they did in Columbia against Missouri. They were able to make a couple key stops when they needed to, force a couple turnovers. So I think, of course, always when you're on the road, as we talked about with Missouri and Georgia, LSU is going to have to find a way to turn the ball over. But I think that pass rush, that the sacks created, they're, like I said, 13th in the SEC. They have to be able to get after Jalen Milroe. and kind of just reverse that trend and let Harold Perkins, Mason Smith, all those guys just go out and play. Mekhi Wingo's had surgery, so he's not going to be available in this game. So there are a lot of questions defensively, and I just wonder, okay, what if LSU shows up and is able to get a few stops here? That would be big. But you also have to wonder, what if Alabama is able to run the football on LSU and just keep it away from Jaden Daniels and company and be methodical and shorten the game? That also would put a lot of pressure on every single possession that LSU would get and make it even more difficult. So I'm excited. It's going to be a hard fought matchup between these two, and I can't wait to see it. Texas A&M at Ole Miss, a noon kickoff. So only a 3.5-point spread. I think everybody knows the amount of talent that Texas A&M have. Lane Kiffin sure as heck does. He was trolling Texas A&M with it all day in his press conference, saying, you would think they would be the team that would be ranked in the top 10 each of the last 3 years, like a reporter asked Lane Kiffin about being, because of all the talent that they have and things like that. But what if Texas A&M is able to slow down the run game of Quinshot Junkins and Ulysses Bentley, Adrian Cooper, Walter Nolan, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, all these guys playing great. They're able to really force you to do things that you're not necessarily comfortable with. They're trying to make you one-dimensional. Jackson Dart, at times when he has not had the benefit of the run game in his career, has gotten a little erratic with the football. I think he's been much more mature, made much better decisions this year. He's even alluded to, hey, Spencer Sanders has helped him grow as a quarterback, a guy who played a lot of quarterback at Oklahoma State, helping him watch film and go through a game plan and things like that. So I think there is a element of maturity that has come there, but this is going to be a moment where he's really going to be tested with a physical, very active defensive front that we'll see if Texas A&M can create some havoc in the backfield. They're they lead the SEC in sacks. They lead the SEC in tackles for a loss defensively. And listen, for all the faults of Mac Johnson, whether it's fundamentally things like that, the dude is able to play tough on the road, and he has experience in road environments and SEC games and plenty of it. So I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to struggle to defend Texas A&M, but what if Texas A&M continues to pepper Evan Stewart and Anaya Smith with targets? What if they're even more creative in getting them the football, whether it's lining them up in the backfield, letting them run fly sweeps, hitting them on a couple of deep balls, things like that? Ole Miss is kind of a feast or famine defense a little bit. They'll get a lot of pressure, but they'll also give up a lot of big plays. So I think there's going to be opportunities for Evan Stewart and Anaya Smith. You have to get the ball out of Max Johnson's hands as quickly as you possibly can. The offensive line for Texas A&M is the weakness there. They're not able to run the ball very effectively at times. They allow a lot of pressure on Max. So I think if the big what ifs in this game is, what if Ole Miss can't run the football as effectively as they want to? How does Jackson Dart and that offense respond with the passing weapons and things like that? Because a lot of it is predicated off of the run game. And then two, what if Texas A&M is able to protect Max Johnson and they get the ball to their playmakers consistently, something they haven't done all year, not just from not being able to, but they haven't called it. They haven't called opportunities to get them the football. They haven't designed a lot of plays to get them the football as often as needed to. And they finally got 13 touches combined in the game last week against South Carolina. I think Anaya Smith could have close to that many touches by himself if I was the offensive coordinator. I mean, get him the football. The dude is explosive, and Evan Stewart needs his targets as well. But that would be your recipe for an upset there if you were A&M. That's kind of the what ifs there in that game on this Wednesday. And then Arkansas going to Florida. Florida 6-point favorite. How does Arkansas pull up the upset? What would have to happen on this what if Wednesday? What would have to happen for Arkansas to be able to go down there to the Swamp and pull things off? Well, one, they're going to have to do things differently offensively. What if they're able to move the pocket? What if they're able to get KJ Jefferson out on some naked bootlegs and things like that? What if they're able to run the football just a little bit better than they have and get some of those things set up where he's on the move and he's not having to drop back and go through progressions? It's a true kind of run pass option for KJ Jefferson. What if he feels more comfortable with that and returns to the form that we've seen in the past of KJ Jefferson? That would be a big step towards a upset type effort and environment there for Arkansas. The other one would be, can Arkansas pressure Graham Mertz the way that Georgia did last week? Arkansas has Landon Jackson. They've got lots of guys across that front. They've got an aggressive style of defense coached by Travis Williams, and they've got some corners that I think can match up and play man-to-man coverage, whether it's Dwight McGlothern, other guys in that secondary for Arkansas that I think can match up with any of those Florida receivers and kind of play some man coverage. I think they're going to have to bring pressure early, try to get Graham Mertz off of his spot, out of his rhythm. But I think the two things they're going to have to be is find some semblance of a run game. Kenny Guyton is going on offense. They're going to find some semblance of a run game. Kenny Guyton's going to have to get KJ Jefferson moving, not let him be a statue back there in the pocket. Even though Florida, I will say this, they don't do a great job of rushing the passer. They're last in the SEC with 11 sacks. It is going to be incumbent upon Arkansas to help that offensive line out that has struggled. Even with Florida not being great at rushing the passer, they still have to find ways to move the pocket, to give different looks maybe than Arkansas has shown a lot this year. And then defensively, like I said, got to find ways to get home on Graham Mertz and have pressure. I think that Florida, their what if is, can they be better on third down? They've only converted 33% of their third downs offensively this year. They're going to have to take advantage of that home crowd there, and they want to make Arkansas's possessions as pressure packed as possible with that crowd noise behind them and things like that. So the way that you do that is you extend drives, you run the football well with Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, and you give yourself very convertible third downs so that you're able to produce, go down, get points, do it in a methodical nature. And then the amount of times that Arkansas has the football is less and less, and it's louder and louder each time because the Florida faithful, the Swamp fans down there, will be loud, sensing, hey, blood's in the water. They can go after and get a win here. So those are kind of some what ifs on both sides of that game. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this SEC morning report here on Southeastern 14 presented by Bet Online. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time to talk more SEC football right here on your home for daily SEC sports coverage, Southeastern 14.